Yeah, I mean, I've actually been a big fan of your games for a long time. And I played Fallout 3 all the way, like, I really played that game a lot. I think I explored every corner of that game. Played, obviously, Skyrim. I did not complete Skyrim. That was intense. I was like, this is a big game. I guess a Vault jumpsuit.
It's the Vault Boy.
Vault Boy, yeah. Exactly. Vault Boy.
When you were a kid, you programmed a game? Is that true? Like in the early 80s?
Yeah. I mean, primitive. I was just a kid, yeah.
You're like 12, I think, right?
Yeah. I remember, I think I was probably like 10 or 11 when I programmed that game, but it got published when I was 12.
Blaster, it's called?
Yeah, it's a simple game. You just like, you sort of fight, you have a space fighter and you fight an alien space freighter. Yeah. I wrote the game, did the graphics and the sound and everything. Just didn't have anything else. So it's a very simple game, I want to emphasize. They're a very powerful force for getting young kids interested in technology. It has way bigger knock-on effects than people may realize. And generally, like if we're interviewing somebody for a software engineering role at Tesla or SpaceX, many times they'll be like, how'd you start programming? It's like, oh, got into video games. You know, over and over.
Only innovating if you're kind of ready to fail or have failure along the way. It shows that you are pushing for innovation. Todd, you've been through kind of quite a year with sort of Fallout 76, and you've been pretty public about
Sure.
some of the challenges there. Could you guys maybe riff a little bit on that about sort of the push for innovation and how sometimes failure is part of that journey?
Sure. I mean, if you're going to try something innovative, then you're in unexplored territories, so that odds that something will go wrong are pretty high. If it's only if you try to do something that is already well understood that there's little chance of failure, but then it will not be interesting or innovative. So, for sure, uncharted territory will result in failures necessarily. Otherwise, you're not trying hard enough. So, I mean, just honestly, like sometimes I feel like we're in some friggin' video game, I'm like, why is it like just possible to get to Mars? Why are the stars so far away? This is just what I'd do if I was doing a video game. I'll put those stars, the little points of light. Don't worry about it. You can't see details. They're real far.
Levels of detail.
Yeah, actually at Tesla we have a whole sim team that tries to create a photorealistic world, and we're trying to be photorealistic about like actually the most boring things like skid marks on the road and like concrete curves, shadows, faded lines on this. Like the reason self-driving is hard is because you have all these corner cases and things where the road should be a certain way, but it isn't. Like there should be painted lines, but there aren't painted lines, and they took the painted lines away, and then there's a skid mark that's offset from the painted line, so that will cause the car, if it just listens to the lines, to crash into stuff. If you had clearly painted lines and could count on them, self-driving would be trivial, like just a piece of cake. But the world is just filled with all these things that are not the way they're supposed to be.
When you look at games and the games you play now, I mean, what are the things you want to see in games that don't happen right now? Is there anything that, like, when you play a game, you're like, I wish it did this, or I wish you're obviously thinking about, lots of things, but when you play games, are you satisfied, or are there things that frustrate you about games? What do you want to see games do in the future?
I don't know if I should say.
Yeah. You working on a game too?
No.
Okay.
No, but I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, like, a bit more R-rated. I don't know.
Okay. Big fan. That's loud. Charles, where are your tusks? Yeah.
Yeah, we're on Tusk. You saying? Yeah, there's Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Yeah. I've heard that before. Upcoming episode of Rick and Morty.
So this is a question for both of you. Actually, you mentioned failures before. What's the actual biggest failure that you've gone through to get to where you are?
Question.
A tricky question. It's funny. It's an interview question I ask people.
Right.
I do not have a good answer for that.
I mean, we blew up 3 rockets in the beginning. So that was bad.
Okay.
I only had enough money. Well, originally, I basically took all the money I made from PayPal, put it into SpaceX, to creating SpaceX, Tesla, and Solar City, and initially figured I'd keep half of it, and then I spend the other half on these crazy adventures that would probably fail. And then, unfortunately, they needed all the money, so so I had to give them all the money.